The Fed pivots and puts a pause to interest rate hikes. So, what will this mean for our markets? Is Binance under investigation right now in France? BlackRock files a Bitcoin spot ETF. And then the last thing, who is Prometheus and how did they get approved by the SEC? Make sure you guys tune in to the end of this video to find out all the details. Hey guys, it's Ryan with Big Dog Investing. Thank you guys for tuning into my channel. If you guys could do a couple of things for me, if you guys can go ahead and like, comment, subscribe to my channel if you guys have not done so already. Click the bell notification down below so YouTube can send you guys notifications whenever I release videos. Watch my videos all the way to the end. And if you guys could, share my videos and share my channel with anyone. I'm trying to grow my channel as much as I can, and I definitely need your guys' help in doing so. Getting started, today's going to be Friday, June 16th. The total market cap for all cryptocurrency right now is $1,059 billion. Bitcoin right now is currently trading at $26,267. Ethereum $1,720, and XRP right now at 47.22 cents. Getting into our crypto bubbles for our biggest gainers and losers. Pulse X is going to be our biggest gainer, up 24%. Hex 23.8%. Pulse itself is going to be up 20.7%. And then Quant is going to be up 15.8%. And there's a reason why Quant is up, and we're going to talk about that towards the end of this video. Our biggest losers on the day, there's not going to be many, and that's just because we are up over a percent right now in cryptocurrency. So the majority in the top 100 will be up. But our biggest losers are going to be KAS down 4.8%, BTT down 3.1%, and XRP right now down 1.8%. Getting into our Watcher Guru news. On June 13th, U.S. inflation falls to 4%, which is lower than expectations. It's crazy how every single time a report's about to get put out, somehow the number just magically appears lower than expectations for our federal government right now. For BRICS, Egypt to settle trade with China, Russia, and India in local currencies, ditching the US dollar, just keeps on showing that the US dollar dominance globally keeps on going down. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says that she says to expect a slow decline in the US dollar as a reserve currency. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. Egypt submits an application to join BRICS, and it's not alone. There's speculation that France is going to join also. The Federal Reserve pauses interest rates, which remains at 5.2% to 5%. And this was really interesting that they actually paused. I predicted that they were actually going to raise interest rates 25 basis points or 0.25%, but they did pause it. We did 10 straight interest rate hikes. This would have been number 11, but they put a pause to it, and it should have shown green for the markets, but the markets actually went in shambles for a little bit. The Dow Jones and the S&P 500 fell roughly about 400 points, and cryptocurrency dropped roughly about 3 to 5%, depending on which coin you guys were invested in. And the reasons why it dropped, though, was because Fed Chair Jerome Powell came out and talked and said that the Fed Reserve is probably going to be raising interest rates at least 2 more times before the year's over. So if you're going to plan on raising interest rates, why wouldn't you continually do it? And instead, you put people have investor confidence thinking that everything's going to go great in the markets because you paused it, but then you put it into shambles by saying, well, we're going to raise it 2 more times probably before the year ends. Fed Chair Jerome Powell says it could be a couple years before interest rate cuts. So we're not going to see any decline in interest rates for at least a couple of years. And then that's when I said it went into shambles because Bitcoin falls under 25,000. And again, right now we're currently at like 26,200. So we kind of recovered so far. Kenya wants to join the BRICS and ditch the US dollar as well. This one is really interesting. $9 trillion asset manager BlackRock to file for a Bitcoin ETF. Again, everything's going to be in the comments. So if you guys want to read this article, it's really interesting because BlackRock's actually been super against cryptocurrency from the get-go. Colombia Central Bank partners with Ripple to explore using blockchain. And this just keeps on showing that while Ripple's still in a lawsuit with the SEC, Ripple globally is still dominating the markets, and the XRP token does have a future. This one was cool. Coinbase and Cash App to integrate Jack Dorsey's Bitcoin self-custody wallet. It's kind of interesting though, and that's why I say it's cool, is because they're going to do Jack Dorsey's Bitcoin self-custody wallet, but Coinbase right now is currently going to be in a lawsuit with the SEC. So how are they going to be able to do this? So it's interesting that Jack Dorsey would probably try to get in with Coinbase and Cash App. He's got a lot of pull in government, so we'll see what happens. But it just shows in my opinion, that this Coinbase lawsuit with the SEC is in shambles, and that's why I said it's kind of cool. Hong Kong tells major bank to accept crypto companies as clients. Obviously, right now in the East, right now they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with cryptocurrency, and as it keeps on expanding globally, cryptocurrency prices are going to keep on going up because more people are entering the markets. 20 new countries apply to join BRICS alliance. Everyone wants to get rid of the United States right now as the global elite and want to join China and Russia as the two biggest for the BRICS nations. We already talked about that. They officially filed. Binance shuts down operations in Netherlands. So they shut down the operations in Netherlands. You guys can read about it. But they also are in investigation right now in France for money laundering. That was really interesting for me, especially with the SEC suing Binance, now France suing them. So we're going to, or investigating them. I'm sorry, not suing, but investigating. In the US, they are suing them. But that was really interesting. US national debt reaches an all time high of $32 trillion. So luckily, we passed the budget. So we have no limits right now for our current U.S. government budget, but we just officially reached 32 trillion. There's speculation by 2030 that we're going to actually be at 50 trillion dollars in debt. Our Congress needs to figure out a way to not keep on adding debt, but getting rid of debt. This one was kind of crazy to me because with how powerful the United States is, especially technological wise, we are far superior than any other nation, yet we keep on falling victim to cyber attacks. So multiple Fed agencies have fallen victim to cyber attacks that exploited vulnerabilities in software they used. To the full extent of the attack remains unclear as the U.S. security, cybersecurity, and infrastructure security agencies investigate the breaches. Russian and Chinese hacking groups are being speculated to do this because they have taken responsibility for other cyber attacks, but they haven't claimed that this one is them yet. But it just shows that our vulnerabilities are there, and with our banking institutions falling under attack, your guys' money can be at risk. So we'll see what happens. The World Economic Forum wants to reduce the number of cars from the current level of 1.4 billion to only 400 million by 2050. So most of you guys, this will affect you guys in your guys' lifetime. They want to somehow reduce your guys' ability to buy these. You'll be limited to your local zone of your city. Most of you won't be allowed personal transportation. Most of you will own nothing. So what this is saying is that you guys right now have the ability to have your guys' car. They're trying to get rid of gasoline right now and move to electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are going to keep on getting more expensive as time goes on, as the mining for those lithium batteries keep on going. So this is really interesting. They're actually talking about this in Congress right now. You guys can actually watch a couple of videos online from congressmen asking questions about this. And I would highly encourage you guys to do your guys' own research on that. Uh, Right here, Rep. Tom Emmer talks with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, and wants to know why they keep on saying that we're not really in a depression right now. And Yellen confessed today that the inflation is not even a factor in how this administration calculates economic decline. Even though going to the grocery store is more expensive, gas prices are more expensive, and everything else that you guys want is more expensive. But again, we're not in an economic decline right now, according to our government right now. Janet Yellen expects a gradual decline. We talked about this for our Watcher Guru news in the US dollar shares for global reserves, but the decline hasn't been gradual. In 2001, the US dollar represented 73% of global reserves. Today, it is 58%. And it's going to continue to keep on dropping as other nations join BRICS. Meta Lawman talks about the SEC versus Binance hearing. So I talked about this in 2 videos ago. My last video, I just focused strictly on the Ripple versus the SEC Hinman emails that got released. But in the SEC versus Binance, the judge does not enter the SEC's request to freeze the assets. Judge encourages parties to try to come to an agreed compromise order and report back on Thursday. The judge apparently caught on that there was no actual emergency. I am told that the judge pressed the SEC lawyers on whether they had any actual evidence of Binance US customer assets being moved overseas, and they had none. So round 1 Binance and CZ, and 0 to the SEC. Binance is under investigation by Paris Public Prosecutor's Office, CoinDesk reports. Allegations against Binance from French prosecutors relate to the one hand to the acts of illegal exercise and the acts of alleged money laundering. Previous Paris and Dubai were once designated as actual dual headquarters by Binance. Binance talks about this and clarifies And they says in France, on-site visits by regulators and inspectors are a part of regulatory obligations to which all financial institutions must adhere. We had an on-site visit last week by the relevant authorities. Binance, as always, was fully cooperative and we met our obligations accordingly. We continue to work closely with regulators and law enforcement agencies on all upcoming compliance requirements to uphold high standards. Binance invests considerable time and resources into cooperating with law enforcement and globally. And I'm not going to go much further in this. CZ says that this is FUD. Obviously, in my opinion, I think it is. But it's kind of weird that Binance gets sued by the SEC. Then Binance gets kicked out of the Netherlands. And then now Binance is being technically, not really, but, speculated under investigation in France. Is this basically all of the nations right now coming together to try to figure out and shut down Binance and seize these operations and then start up their own government agency for like the one world central government to control cryptocurrency and digital assets? Because that's obviously what they want to do. And the reasons why is everything can be tracked. So Paul Grewal, the chief legal officer over at Coinbase, says yesterday we filed a comment letter for the SEC's proposed rule that seeks to expand the definition of exchange to include DEX. This proposal should not be adopted and certainly not before completing the threshold steps of any rulemaking. Last year, the SEC tried to expand the exchange definition to include DEX without providing any notice to the public in the original proposed rule. We and many others raised concerns. So the SEC wanted to go around the public. Again, they are not elected officials, but they wanted to go around the public opinion and basically not have this be shown to the public and not get any public input, commentary, questions, or concerns raised from people who are actually invested in cryptocurrency or who might want to use the technological aspects of digital assets to help their businesses. 12 months later, the SEC acknowledged the original proposal was intended to include DEX and reopen the comment file, but instead of reflecting the realities of the DEX, this proposal tries to fit a square peg in a round hole. Requiring a DEX to register in the same way as a national securities exchange is impossible. Requiring the impossible violates the APA. And simply saying that there is no economic data doesn't absolve the SEC from conducting economic analysis, especially when the data exists. We welcome public rulemaking, but if this proposal is too flawed on the process and substance to move forward, in particular, the SEC is attempting to run congressional action by banking unsupported assumptions about its crypto jurisdictions into the proposed rules. Okay, this is really interesting, and this is something that I would want to keep an eye on too. I'm going to be talking about this later on as the SEC and Coinbase figure this out. Eleanor Tourette says keep your guys open for a meeting next week. On Thursday, June 22nd, there's going to be a meeting, and then also at 9 a.m. and 10:30. This is for next week. One is going to be the oversight subcommittee hearing on oversight of the SEC, and then the oversight of the SEC's Division of Trading and Markets. This is going to be very beneficial because Congress is going to actually ask some hard-hitting questions, hopefully to SEC officials. Hopefully Gary Gensler shows up, but in my opinion, I don't think that he will. Jungle Incorporated comes out and talks about, in some ways, the Hinman docs were more powerful than expected. The SEC acknowledged that Hinman was making up his own test, not by based on the law. They also admitted that his creation, that this creates confusion in the markets. SEC admits if someone was using a token, it's not a security. This is good for ODL. The SEC admits that they're not even sure if Ethereum and may want to change their stance in the future. The SEC admits that there are regulatory gaps, that they may not have the authority to basically oversee this, and that Congress will. And there's a lot of people that are speculating the Hinman documents didn't actually help or benefit Ripple versus the SEC case. It actually hurt it because it was a nothing burger, is what they're calling it. They spent so much money trying to get all of these emails, but there's a reason why the SEC wanted to hide all of these emails. And if it took this long and this hard of a fight, they're actually super important. And you just have to look a little bit deeper. It just shows that the SEC's actions, one, that they tried to stop Hinman from doing this, and he still went out and did it for his own personal benefit. It wasn't investigated by the SEC, and then the SEC tried to cover it up when Ripple actually asked to see these emails. They were try to stop it 7 times, like 7 rulemaking law actions by the judge to get these emails. And finally, they came to light, and the SEC tried to hide it every step of the way. A week before the SEC shut down the Ether Delta for a small penalty of $400,000, one of Joseph Lubin's favorite projects launched. which by chance and just at the right time could take place in the Ether Delta, which the SEC shut down. And what project was that? Uniswap, which most of you guys should know if you guys are in cryptocurrency. This is where a lot of individuals who get new projects or meme coins, if you guys have to use it, you'd have to basically swap Ethereum for these small, low cap cryptocurrency meme projects. And then hopefully they actually get put on exchanges, and then that's where people make their big money in crypto. Now, sorry guys, SEC lobbyists asked the SEC info on Prometheum, the mysterious regulated crypto firm. So, Blockchain Association's lawyer Marissa Koppel puts out a Freedom Information Act request with the SEC's with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, requests relevant to Prometheum, a crypto broker. Prometheum and CEO co-founder Aaron Kaplan spoke before the House Financial Services Committee on Tuesday, broadly in support of Gary Gensler's SEC positions on crypto regulation. Given that Prometheum is not widely known, Kaplan's appearance led to further scrutiny of this startup. Findings based on public records have since raised questions about the nature of Prometheum's business practices and relationships. Above all, many have questioned whether Prometheum has been accurate in presenting itself as a fully regulated crypto exchange, a claim that the SEC Chair Gensler's position that existing regulations are sufficient for regulating crypto. So, this guy mysteriously comes out of nowhere. No one really in the crypto space has ever heard of this company. And then he appears in front of Congress to answer questions. So Matt Walsh comes out and talks about this and says, this Prometheum storyline has got to be the strangest thing I have seen in a while in the crypto industry. Has anyone actually looked into this beyond bizarre? Last month, in the midst of the SEC bringing cases on Coinbase, Gemini, and giving the stiff arm to Robinhood and others, Prometheum gets approved for the first of its kind special purpose broker dealer for digital asset securities. Then Prometheum CEO somehow gets a seat in front of Congress yesterday and starts reading off pre-written notes, clearly coordinated narratives with Democrat members of the SEC and Congress. As he points out, this ATS absolutely will not work unless the project first registers the tokens with the SEC. There are currently no tokens registered with the SEC because the current regimen is not viable for public blockchain networks. U.S. Representative Mike Flood hit the nail on its head on why Prometheum claims are utter nonsense. And he talks about this and he asks, can you guys even trade Bitcoin or Ethereum on your guys' platform right now? And the answer was no. We currently can't do that, but hopefully in the future we'll be able to. And that just shows right now that they have not had really any public funding right now going on. There's no really people using these exchanges because you can't even buy the two biggest cryptocurrencies per market cap, Bitcoin and Ethereum, on this project, but yet somehow they get registered by the SEC. It shouldn't be like Coinbase, Binance, Uphold, Kraken, KuCoin. All of those should be registered with the SEC, not some out of the name, out of pocket Prometheum blockchain network that came out of the nowhere and somehow gets approved by the SEC. The Prometheum guys want us to believe that all L1s, layer ones, are securities and will need to come in and trade on Prometheum. Not happening, but enter the Prometheum chain. What is that you guys say? These guys have their own chain, yes, and a token. So they have their own token. So is their token going to be considered a security by the SEC? Well, they've already been approved to act as a broker dealer for digital assets. We'll see what happens. But the list goes on and on about this. If you guys want to, you guys can look into them. They were actually lawyers. So one's right here is an attorney, here's an attorney, and here's an attorney. So all of these people are attorneys. These are your three executive members. But two of the three of them went to a now unaccredited law school. So they went to a law school, basically became unaccredited, yet somehow they still work as attorneys and stuff like that, and we'll see what happens with it. But when he actually sat in front of Congress, one of the Congress members actually asked him, how did you guys get approved? You guys have people that sit on your guys' board members that actually have votes, and 20% of your guys' company ownership is sitting in a Chinese institution. And he hit back and was like, well, many companies actually have members outside of the United States that sit on their board. Well, that is true, and I will agree with him on that in that aspect. But you're the only company that's actually been approved by the SEC for digital assets. The one other one was Coinbase, but technically now they're violating securities laws, but somehow you're flying underneath the radar and find a seat in front of Congress. It's just interesting. And then somehow now he's making news organizations and says that he predicts a Ripple loss. He believes that Gary Gensler and the SEC technically have all of the rulemaking and digital asset oversight to basically do whatever they want to do. And he doesn't believe that Congress needs to act any further. That was really interesting for him to point out. But then also, he's actually promotes Ethereum, obviously. So he has a stake in Ethereum. He might be part of the Ethereum Foundation. A lot of people are going to be looking into him in crypto right now. And once I find out a little more information, I'll talk about it. But the new narrative is we can't sue Ethereum because we need to protect investors. So JP Morgan says Ethereum could be put into another category by US Congress. US lawmakers could be put into Ether into a new other category to avoid classifying it as security, but to protect investors, according to a JP Morgan strategist. That was really interesting that now JP Morgan, again, was associated with the SEC right before they actually sued Ripple. And then now they're saying that they don't want Ethereum classified as a security. And that's why Gary Gensler wouldn't technically make up his mind if Ethereum was a security or a commodity yet in front of Congress. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, this is Charles Hoskinson. He's actually the founder and creator of Cardano, or the ADA token. He doesn't even know who these Prometheum guys is. He has a top 10 digital asset, created it. It's still up. Okay. Now it is labeled as a security by the SEC, but he's been in cryptocurrency for a very long time and he has no clue who these guys are. Now, Mark Cuban talks about digital assets in the way that Congress was acting with the SEC, suing Binance, Coinbase, and also Ripple. And in this, he's talking to a reporter. And he says, "Thanks, Mark. This is a great conversation. I appreciate the back and forth. Respectfully, dreams of crypto's promise have a long since faded, and it's time to move on." But Mark Cuban says, "No, now we're talking tech. You are in my space, John. I don't comment. I do. My career has been people telling me why the companies I started were ridiculous and not needed until they found themselves using them. Smart contracts are about 6 years old. Maybe the name isn't accurate, but the utility is valid. 90% of blockchain companies will go broke. 99% of tokens will go broke, just like 99% of early internet companies did. 99% of the startup companies leveraging LLMs will disappear, but the winners will be the game changers. That's why tech works." And he talks about how digital assets in the SEC need to come together and figure out clear rules and regulations because obviously it is going to be beneficial. We have businesses that fail. This happens, okay? A lot of mom and pop stores that pop up will fail. Some will succeed. Some actually grow to be big businesses. Amazon started out in a garage by Jeff Bezos and his wife as an online bookstore. And then now look how big the company is. Now, how many other online bookstores started out and failed and never actually got super big? It just shows that you can start from something super small and then grow and keep on expanding. Same thing with Facebook. Okay. Same concept with the social media, and then it grew. Okay. I do believe cryptocurrency will be here to stay. And I think Mark is right. Now, the reason why quant price went up, Crypto Mason says Quant CEO says they worked with the Bank of International Settlements and the Bank of England on a CBDC API project. Amazon was involved. This project is called Project Rosalind. He says, this is the CEO, okay, of Quant, says, "We were chosen to provide the technology because of our history of innovation, enterprise in financial services, and deep experience in payments, previously running mission critical infrastructure. Only we can do what the project's needed for the technology partnered and payments experts. The project has produced tangible real-world examples that tested how CBDCs could support a more digitalized economy in the future. Working participants like Bank of Canada, Barclays, MasterCard, and Amazon, who built and tested the new CBDC platform, flows on the platform." Now, I do believe that Quant is a great cryptocurrency. It ended up pumping up 22% and then since dropped down to 15% for the day. Obviously, a bunch of people that had their money already in Quant took some of their profits out. I do see, again, no financial advice, a steady decline in Quant, and as more news breaks out, the price will continue to increase. But right now, again, everything follows Bitcoin. Now, When we talked about the bank right here, the Hong Kong bank, it says the same HSBC with 3 trillion in assets that called XRP a game changer for cross-border payments, the same Standard Chartered that made the strategic investment in Ripple. And this is what going on right now when they were talking about they're telling major banks to accept crypto companies as clients. Now, Zach Rector also points out and says that, and of course, Ripple just acquired a stake in Bitstamp. Okay, they also acquired Medico, but Bitstamp, one of the most important ODL exchanges, has been officially recognized and registered with the UK FCA. So, just again shows that Ripple keeps on expanding its business practice, just like they did with Columbia. Now, Ripple and PeerSet are partnering with Columbia's Banco Republic in conjunction with the Ministo TIC to pilot use cases that will enhance Colombia's high value payment system. Here's the article. Again, it'll be in the comments. And then the last thing that we're going to go over is this video from Brad Garlinghouse. He says, trying something new. Some thoughts from me on the event, specifically on the release of the Hinman docs of this week. For me, this has all been a personal bent to it and felt like I warranted some personal comments. So he kind of goes off script with this, which normally lawyers basically ill advise you to do. And I would highly encourage you guys to do this. But he talks about how since the start with 7 judgment rulings by the judge, over $100 million in the case so far, trying to get these Hinman emails, that nobody in the SEC could figure out what was going on with digital assets for clarity. And it just shows that he now is well invested in this company and is here, and he's been fighting for 2.5 years and will continue to fight as long as it needs. And that's why I am currently invested in Ripple, and I trust Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Larson, and the team over at Ripple. Put down in the comments if you guys have any questions, anything you guys want me to go more in depth in. Thank you guys. Tune into the next video. And if you guys can invest with the big dog, stay on the porch. Thank you guys and have a good one.